one's winning the X Factor unless someone in their family's dying. Do you know what I mean? This is the bullshit about the music industry.
The question though really is, how did people respond? How did you manage to respond?
I got slapped in the face a couple times by friends. Just to be amazing is absurd. It doesn't matter. The music industry is not about that. It's about money. Monster. I created the monster and became that monster. Nothing. I'm sitting there going, fuck, I want to kill this motherfucker right here. I had to go in and argue and discuss things with Sony that killed my love for music, and he was just laughing his ass off. And then we were like, Dan, listen, we're Scottish, man. We made 9 records in 9 years, and none of them have been released. It's insane. So it's bullshit, It's all fucking. It's crazy. It's like
about 2 years ago, I read a piece in The Guardian about 2 Scottish guys that had basically had a pretty unpleasant experience in London rapping in Scottish accents. So rather than being cowed by this, they did what any resourceful couple of rappers would do and reinvented themselves. And I thought, this is one of the most amazing stories I've read in ages. And I was quite curious about finding out more. A year later, I heard that Irvin Welsh was writing the screenplay, and we mentioned it in our Scotsman column. And then I thought, man, we really need a keynote speaker, and we need to have someone that isn't the usual keynote speaker. How many events have you been to where you see Seymour Stein, where you see Alan McGee, where you see all these usual suspects? I'm like, I want someone different, and I want someone with a totally unique viewpoint on the music industry. And, as luck would have it, we had 4 Facebook friends in common. The book's out this week. So, many things have gone wrong in setting up this event, including the original venue double booking us and implying it was our fault. Bands dropping out, all sorts of sort of frustrating things happening. But I think the one thing that's worked beautifully was this, and it's quite fitting that it comes at the end of the day. Now, our guest here is Gavin Bain. Like I say, the book's California Scheming is out this week, and I think probably the best way to start, Gavin, is if you want to grab that microphone. If you don't have to grab it, you can leave it on the stand if you prefer. And maybe just tell us about, you grew up in South Africa, in the sunshine, surfing, then your dad's business goes bust and you find yourself in Motherwell, is that right? A bit of a contrast.
Bit of a culture shock, I'll be honest. Absolute culture shock. The arse end of Motherwell, North Motherwell, never go there, I don't think it exists anymore. Aptly titled by the local wildlife as Little Bosnia. And I spent the next 4 or 5 years getting beat up every single day. That part really kind of is where it all began for me. I felt to get away from being beat up at school every day and all the shit that I actually didn't understand was going on with religion and Protestant and Catholics and all that crap. I actually didn't know what religion I was until someone smashed me in the face for saying that I don't know what religion I was. He was a Protestant. It turned out actually I was a Protestant. Could have got that one easy, but so I fell in love with heavy metal records and comic books, and I fell into a world of fantasy. And in that world, I guess I kind of stayed until I came out with my own music project, try to go back into the real world. Really talented, I guess. Me and my best friends were really talented. That's when we moved on to Dundee, by the way. And then we went down to London to pursue a record deal, the record deal, the thing that most of us would like to get, artists.
Set the tone here. I mean, you're gigging in Dundee. You've got a following. You've perfected a rapping technique that you called porcupine, and then you're making it. I mean, you're kind of big on your local patch, aren't you? So I mean, it's not unreasonable to expect that you might get some kind of reception in London.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we had ambition. We had probably too much, and yeah, we were fucking shit hot. That's the absolute truth of it. We just happened to be Scottish. I mean, we went to local radio, local management, local industry, and no one really helped us out. Local press, no one gave a shit really about us. I thought we were pretty original at the time. It was basically a couple of kids with the skill set of Eminem, but just Scottish. I thought that was pretty strange, and I thought the music world would maybe embrace that. And holy fuck, I was wrong.
So what happened? You took the night bus to London. Was it 13 hours or something?
13 hours. I don't know if anyone's ever done that from the top of Scotland down to London. It's a long time to kind of to stew over things. On the way down, we just believed that before we went down, the reason for going down was seeing this post on a record company, Polydor. I wasn't allowed to say them in the book, but I'll say it now. It was Polydor, and the CEO or the head at the time was Simon Gavin, and I'd personally sent. I managed to track down his home address, and I'd sent him CDs and didn't get anything back. And then a couple of weeks later, and I'm standing in front of him after a 13-hour bus trip down, in which the three of us were believing that we're just going to stroll in here. There's not going to be that many kids there who actually think they're like Eminem. We're going to be like, one of 50. We're going to stroll in here. We're just going to, do our rap thing. Everyone's been liking us to Eminem since we started, most probably because we're white. We're just going to stroll through it. It's going to be amazing. We get there, and there's a line from Pineapple Studios in London up Covent Garden, pretty much as far as the eye can see. There was thousands of kids who all believed that they were the next Eminem. So we basically battle rapped our way to the front of the queue through all these, bubblegum beginner rapping, peroxide hair wearing complete losers, delusional kids. 3 of which were us. And eventually, after 4 hours of being in that queue, losing love for music, we managed to get in front of Simon Gavin and the 2 dweebs next to him. And we started rapping, and we went into some pretty vicious rhymes, beats that we had made, music that I had personally spent weeks without leaving a room, peeing into a bottle, so I didn't have to leave a seat, perfecting. I thought I deserved a little more than 15 seconds. 15 seconds, and then they started giggling. And I don't know if you guys know about battle rapping and rhyming metaphorical lyrics. You kind of need to be really confident in what you're doing. As soon as you see someone's face start to crack, it's going to throw you off a little bit. They stopped after about 30 seconds and said, "Right, thanks guys, thanks for coming. Enjoy your 13-hour bus trip back." And we're like, "We're not finished, Like, what are you doing? Give us the same chance as everyone else. At least listen maybe to the talent." And then they just couldn't stop laughing. It was like they were fucking, I don't know what they were on, but it was like someone had laced the room with nitrous oxide or some shit, because they just couldn't stop laughing. They were, giggling like fucking 4-year-olds. And they basically turned around and was like, haven't you seen MTV these days? Scottish rap's never going to make it. You're from Scotland, Like, go make some folk music or some shit, You're not making commercial music. And yeah, they just basically told us to fuck off. There was a lot of rappers in the room. There was a lot of kids in the queue that we had battle rapped and beat, who were pretty shocked by this because the music sounded great and the rhymes were pretty good. So we walked out embarrassed, with our heads down, and took another 13-hour bus journey back to Dundee, but not before we went and got a second opinion from someone who we thought was extremely credible. He's not mentioned in the book, but his name's David Loeb, and he ran Wordplay and who were responsible for signing Mark B and Blade and having a lot of success. And he actually owns hip hop. He owned Hip Hop Connection as well for a while. And we thought if anyone in hip hop or this world could give us the truth, it's going to be this guy. I think he gave it actually a little bit longer. He gave it 30 seconds. 30 seconds before he turned the CD off, threw it back at us, and was like, "You sound like the rapping Proclaimers." They're great, don't get me wrong, but rap guys don't want to be called the Proclaimers. So 13 Hours was a long time to stew on the words rapping Proclaimers.
So you stewed on it, took the bus back to Dundee, and one of the three dropped out, and yourself and Billy
Oscar
Bod.
dropped out, yes, and until the day I die, I probably will never hear a poet better than Oscar Kirkwood. He was the greatest lyricist that I've ever come across in my life, and he now no longer makes music, and that's a horrifying thing to me. I see it all the time. Scottish artists who just give up just because someone says, "Nah, it's not cool. It's not going to happen." I wasn't ready to take that in. I've got a paralyzing fear of failure, and I just don't quit anything.
So what happened next?
I saw a movie called The Secret of My Success. Anyone? No? Yep, good. In which Michael J. Fox's character takes over a company just by, or working his way up through the ranks just by conning. And what I realized is that he was just becoming what everyone at the top of the industry wanted as their head, as the main kahuna. He was just becoming a character. He was just making a product. And in watching that, after that, what had happened in London, and knowing that I'd been fucking let down dreadfully by the music industry, which was set up to help artists like ourselves, knowing that if I could just flip it now, if I could just become something that they actually want, what might happen? What if they wanted Eminem, right? What if we just give them Eminem? But what if we really fuck it up? What if we times it by 2? What if we go over the score? Why don't we go back down and we'll take Eminem's story, we'll mix it with some fucking crazy shit, and we'll just become these absolute monsters. We'll be American 24/7. We'll create a backstory, and we'll take on our favorite actors. I took on Jim Carrey, and Bill took on Chris Tucker, and we'll live large. What the fuck else are we going to do? Are we going to quit? Fuck no. So at that point, I was no longer interested in getting a record deal or making, making music in the sense that I was doing before. At that point, I just wanted to fuck them over. I wanted to take down the industry at that point. I wanted to prove a massive point that it's talent, it's talent over product. It's talent over money, Anyway, naive as fuck. We didn't think we were going to get, didn't think it was going to go far. We worked our hardest to perfect the accents. We spoke to each other in American 24/7. I mean, it wasn't easy to decide to move to London and never speak to your friends again, not speak to your family again. But when I decided to go for something, I'll go full out. And I knew that I was potentially going to lose a lot of people, including family members. But I was willing to do it to prove a point.
So you get there, you perfect the technique, you get the clothes, you start going to talent contests, and I mean, I would take like
showcases.
Sure. It sounded more like a kind of talent contest the way it was described. I mean, you end up these things with all these polished R&B acts, and you're kind of rolling in, in the full gear and just storming the place.
Yeah, I mean, the desperation that's in the air at something like that, or even at a lot of unsigned bands' gigs, it's just everyone is desperate to impress, and we weren't really desperate to impress. We were desperate to deceive. So we had one up on everyone else. We were just going to go in, make as much fucking noise as possible, and yeah, just tear the place up.
So what was your impression? You've turned this around. Instead of laughing at you, they're laughing with you. They're lapping it up even when you're taking the piss out of people. They're actually encouraging you to do that at a meeting. I mean, what was it like to suddenly experience that complete turnaround just because you're rapping in a different accent?
I mean, it wasn't just. I mean, yeah, it was rapping in a different accent. Literally, all we changed was the way the lyrics were delivered. It was just an American voice now, and straight away it was like, oh wow, fuck, sounds like Dr. Dre made that. You know,
you kept all the beats and all the music.
All the same beats, everything was the same. You know, it just changed the voice and created a backstory, and created a look. Got tans, wore bigger, baggier clothes, shaved little lines in our head. Wore, it was a little makeover. We looked like Flavor Flav had just spewed all over us. No one's winning the X Factor unless someone in their family's dying.
See, I mean, what's interesting, and I suppose almost ironic, the first kind of serious A&R meeting you had was actually with this Scottish guy.
Yeah, Dougie Bruce, he was working at Sony at the time. Days where we spent time trying to get American passports made in wood green of this Russian guy, and it went fucking wrong. And we weren't really desperate to impress. We were desperate to deceive. At that point, I just wanted to fuck them over. I wanted to take down the industry at that point.